Good evening. Oh, so here I stand on the edge of the stage, a regular guy with regular looks. Well, actually not too bad if I say so myself. Yeah, kind of like the stage manager in Our Town. Remember that play? Right. Well, this ain't that, and you thought you were buying a ticket for Our Town. You're in the wrong theater. No, this is another story. It's true. It happened to me, and I've been asked more times than I can recall to tell this story. So sit back and watch this improbable puzzle. Now, I got to tell you, this is the big story of my life. Now, this didn't happen yesterday, and there are tons of facts that, well, at my age, I can't remember, so that's why you see all these notes in front of me. Oh, hold on. This is a call from my editor. Yeah, Stan, yeah. Oh, that's for Friday's edition, right? Yeah, I got it. Page 4. How many words you want? I can't do that, for Christ's sake. Stan, the guy's got nothing to say. He's painted on the wall. He's a fisherman. What does that tell you? He sits there for hours saying nothing. I interview him, he's Mr. Silent. And you want half a page in your dreams. Now, why are we doing this? Give me someone who's worth at least 900 words. Maybe a scoutmaster or a bookkeeper, movers and shakers of the town. I'm kidding, only kidding, Stan. Look, give me some local bozo who's got something to say, and I'll have something for you by 5 o'clock or earlier. A local hero, or a world-renowned brain surgeon, or maybe a movie star, depending on what you got for me. Yeah, later. Name's Charles Q. Simpson, newspaper man, 40 years, worked all over the country, Chicago, Detroit, Savannah, D.C., great papers, but you got to move on. Times change, you change, story of my life, but I won't bore you with that. I'll just say you could probably call me a loner. Never married, a few women, some good, some not so good. 6 months was my limit. Time to move on. And that's what I did for 40 years. Now, look, I'm not telling you anything you don't know. The newspaper business, if it's not over, it's damn close to being over. Sure, we got the New York Times and we got the Washington Post, the big guys. But the locals are gone or going. Kind of like being in show business. Early years of dynamite, you're a star. Next thing you know, you're a bit player. It's the same with the newspaper racket. How I wound up in this tank town is a mystery. Well, maybe not. I'll level with you. I had a little drinking problem for a few years. 40, actually. Never interfered with my product. I never missed a deadline. In the old days, the editors would overlook a pint of Jack Daniels stashed in the bottom drawer of your desk. Today, hell, they're all 12-year-old interns. Forget the Jack Daniels. They smoke dope. It's a different world today, the newspaper racket. But I got to tell you, I can still knock out 1,000 words in 20 minutes flat with no proofreader needed. I know where a comma goes and where it doesn't go, and I can spell better than any Harvard PhD. And I have the instinct for the big story above the fold. And I tend to brag a bit. Now, you may ask, and I hope you will, how did I end up here? Deerville, Oregon. Staff writer, social editor, feature writer. Oh, it's a job. I needed a job. 10 years ago, the Deerville Daily became the Deerville Weekly. It's free. We used to call them shoppers or throwaways. Now we call them newspapers. I'm getting used to living in the sticks. It's okay. Too much land, too much fresh air, too many trees. Give me the south side of Chicago in the 50s when you could smell the stockyards day and night. And the job's okay. Stan, the editor, he leaves me alone mostly. His missus makes sure to invite me to the occasional 3:30 Sunday dinner. Now, if that seems a tad early to you, is because Stan and his wife attend the fellowship meeting at the Pentecostal church on Bethel Street. I don't. That conversation I had with Stan earlier, he wants me to interview a local artist for our regular profile of local celebrities in... Okay, they're celebrities in Deerville. Leave it alone, Charlie. So here's what I know. The lady paints. She's no youngster. She's lived in town for a short time. That's all I know. What I don't know is art. What is art? So what the hell? It's a crapshoot. I'll give her maybe 700 years, file the piece in 10 minutes. Now, let's see now. That was Miss Corinne Hoover, 34 Oregon Avenue. Oh, hell, I could walk over there. I got my pin and spiral. 100 and upward with the arts. Yeah, Gloria. Yeah, give me Stan. Okay, I'll stay on. Yeah, connect me when he's off. Hey, Glo, when you gonna marry me? I got a couple of bucks stashed away. We could buy that house with a picket fence, get ourselves a dog, maybe a goldfish. Yeah, what? You heard this before? Well, those local bozos are wimps. You need a real man, and Charles Q. Simpson can take care of it. Okay, yes, yeah, put me through. Stan, look, I'm off to the Hoover profile. It's just around the corner. Now, I'll be back before you wash your hands after a piss. Yeah, see ya.
As I mentioned to your editor, I do not welcome interviews. And furthermore, I cannot imagine anyone being interested in an old lady, a recluse, a somewhat predictable painter of mystifying canvases in a small town in the middle of nowhere. Even so, I welcome you. I need to sell a few pictures. Your name again?
Charles Q. Simpson.
The Q stands for...
Quinn, miss.
Ms.
Of course, Ms. Hoover.
Well then, Mr. Charles Quinn Simpson, how are we going to proceed? Well, that is if we proceed with this profile, as you say. I must warn you, I am a very private person. And I have lived as a very private person for most, well, if not all of my life. I agreed to talk with your paper for only one reason. I need to sell my pictures. In short, I am broke, as the American saying goes. By the way, what is the population of Deerfield?
Oh, it's about 6,000 last census. Maggie Thompson just had a baby boy, so that makes it 6,001. Forgive the humor. Most of the youth are moving to the cities, founded in 1800s. Mining at first, gold, then farming. Now just a quiet place where people can find solitude.
That is the very reason I came here, why I chose this place. I had been looking for what I had thought of as a refuge for several years. And so I find myself in Deerfield. A bit of a cultural disappointment. But what did I really expect? Well, here I am anyway, living, working, not unhappy, and I am left to myself, which is what I have been seeking for most of my life. By the way, what should I call you, Mr. Charles Quinn Simpson?
Charlie, most people do.
But my name is Corinne Hoover. Currently. It is no matter. You are here to talk about art. My art, is that right?
That's right. You and your art.
Yes, my art. That is what we can talk about, Mr. Charles Q. Charlie. Now, you may sit down. Try that one. That is not working, it's this one. Charlie, it is this one for certain. My art. So, your questions?
Agreed, Ms. Hoover. But I'll need a bit of a background, some personal history to flesh out the piece. You know, a paragraph or two about who you are, where you come from. You know what I mean.
I know what you mean. Well, here is what I propose. No, I should say, here are the parameters of this interview. First, I will give you a brief biography of myself, very brief, all you will need for the piece. Second, I may speak of certain personal things that will not be for publication. And third, I will have the privilege of reading the final interview, that you journalists call a proof. That is in case I need to edit it. Oh, there is a fourth condition. I am an artist. I need to work, and I work every day. So, you will need to schedule 3 or 4 sessions with me so as not to interfere with my work. I would say something like 40 or 45 minutes each session. Now, is that something you can agree to, Charlie?
Very specific. Yes, whatever is comfortable for you, Ms. Hoover. However, forgive me, but in my racket, my job, when we call a prospective subject for a story, now forgive me, it sounds like you might be a hard nut to handle. It's a figure of speech. But I will honor your wishes, and so I'm yours, Ms. Hoover.
Hard nut. I suppose I may be hard nut. I think I would like to switch chairs. Hard nut. I am beginning to like you, Charlie. And as a former prime minister once declared of an adversary, I think we can do business, yes?
Yes, that we can. Shall I begin? Am I on the clock?
You are, but do not hurry. I will let you know when the time has come to send you home. Do you smoke?
Not for years.
Sorry, you cannot smoke here.
I don't smoke.
I used to smoke, but you cannot smoke in here.
Understood. Somehow I have the idea that you weren't born in this country. The slight accent, where were you born? Good for starters, right?
Germany, but I am Dutch.
Now, when did you settle in the U.S.? Where was that? My guess it wasn't Oregon.
No. The late 40s. I came as a refugee. I landed in New York, as so many of us did. I knew no one, but I did have English. And well, I could speak and read French, and certainly German, of course. So, languages helped me to find work and a place to live. But that is another story.
So you survived the war?
You could say that, but I would not have used that word, survived. Let me say, I managed to live through it. I was in the camps. You have heard of the camps. Which one is not important, but they became the Jewish homeland for several years before Palestine, then Israel.
You were liberated?
By the British.
So you found yourself in the displaced persons compound? Now, what about your family? Did they survive?
Not that I know of. I never heard. It happened, they disappeared. There is no record I could find.
I'm sorry.
course you are. My heart, Charlie. Now, what about that painting? Do you like that? What do you think of it?
Very nice.
Yes, it is very nice, but what do you think of it? It is one of my best. I like it. The color, the texture. What do you think it means? That is of any importance. People seem to think a piece of art has to mean something. Who said beauty for the sake of beauty? Maybe I did, yes. Well, it is for sale. You can buy it. Maybe you should.
I can certainly think about it. I live in a very small apartment.
Yes, of course. Walls covered with sports memorabilia, no doubt. That was not very nice.
I'm a Cubs fan.
Yes, of course you are. Well, I like Chicago.
So, you don't know of any part of the family that survived the war, the camps. Now, there are places to go, archives. These might just find some answers.
Shall we move on?
So, you were a young girl then. You emigrated to the U.S. Now, how did that happen?
A young girl, yes. 16 to be exact. Alone, stateless, what to do? Well, you find yourself an American soldier, a better, an occupation officer. And he lived in a requisitioned house in München. He and his wife and 2 children. I was hired in the household, nanny, maid, eventually a kind of family member. They were good people. The colonel knew of my language skills, German in this case, and so he found a job for me with UNRWA, the UN Relief Organization, a job as a military translator for the Allies in the denazification program. But the colonel was mustered out of the army, and he wanted to take me with him and his family back to America. And that is how I found my new name, Hofer. Colonel Hofer adopted me. Oh, and I have to say that during my time with the translation unit, I met a young lieutenant. Samuel Stern was his name. I lied about my age. We had an affair and he married me. And we all ended up in New York. The colonel, the wife, the 2 little ones, the adopted daughter, and Sam Stern. Well, Sam and I lived in a tiny apartment in New York. But big problem. Sam and his clan were Orthodox. No, not for me. Not after what I had been through. So, Sam Stern and Corinne Hofer walked away from each other. Why am I telling you all this? The first red flag, as you call it, of our very first session, not for publication. Oh, Charlie, look, I've had many names in my long life. Let me think. Well, there was Stern, Fitzpatrick, Lowry, Silverman. I must have fallen in love with marriage instead of the 4 husbands. But all of them mostly good men. 2 died. The other 2 lived, I think. But what I do know is I am not getting any alimony checks.
Mrs. Hoover, you have a lively sense of humor.
Most people would characterize my humor as a bit dark.
Ever any desire to return to Holland? Was it Amsterdam?
I could never go back, never.
Oh, but it was your home. I mean, you must have childhood memories there. Maybe some friends have returned or could still be there.
This is a subject I do not want to talk about. Your time is up, Mr. Charles Quinn Simpson.
So soon, I hope I haven't offended.
Not at all, yet. Late mornings are best for me. Shall we say Wednesday 11? Remember, no smoking.
Gloria, give me Stan. Is he never off the horn? Oh, wait. 8. When we gonna tie the knot, doll? This big hunk with not a gray hair in his head is ready to settle down, and you're just what the doctor ordered. You, baby, are my medicine, and I'm not talking Viagra. I'm the real thing, and you can bet... hold on. Yeah, put him, connects me. Okay, thanks. I don't know. I had no idea this would take more than 20 minutes, Stan. She's a bit of a weirdo. Eccentric, tough. I don't know, but I think it's worth following through. Now, I can't really tell you why. Now, we won't make this week's deadline, but we can run it next week if I ever get a story out of her. And, yes, okay, I'll run the Little League story and have it on your desk in an hour. I promise. I got another session with her on Wednesday. Okay, I'll wrap it up pronto. I got this feeling, well, she's got a story to tell. Yeah. Huh? Oh, yeah. Little League Bastards in 20 minutes. I'll see you later. Like I told Stan, I think she's got a story. I can't figure out what. Now, I gotta go slow with this. She's no fool. I don't know, but my guess is that her life story is more interesting and more important than her art. I don't know. If I move carefully, she might open up about, well, I don't know what. Why the hell is she here in the boondocks, this little old lady who paints pretty pictures? Pretty pictures? Come to think of it, I didn't see any pretty pictures in that house. But what do I know about art? Now, who was that guy in the 50s that painted the little girls with the big eyes? The lady I dated collected them. Drove me crazy. Imagine waking up in the middle of the night with 12 bedraggled girls with 24 enormous eyes staring down at you. And that relationship didn't take for some reason. Wednesday, 11 o'clock sharp.
Wednesday, 11 o'clock sharp. You are right on time, Mr. Charles Quinn Simpson.
I try to please, Miss Hoover.
Well, as you have discovered, I am not a person who is easily pleased. But we should move along. Now, what questions in your bag of tricks do you plan to ask today? Not that all will be answered, mind you. I would not bank on more than 20%. And I am being generous. Oh, and by the way, you will have to pay in cash for the painting. Now, which one are you considering?
You never disappoint, Miss Hoover. In my youth, I was a boxer. Not very smart. But smart enough to ever get in the ring with the likes of you. Still, I have to say, I won 50% of my matches. Speaking of percentages.
Touché, Charlie. Now, what is on your mind this morning?
You mentioned the painting.
Yes, the picture. Yes, Charlie, you wanted to buy it.
Yes, I think there's... I can't buy the picture. I think there's been a misunderstanding.
It happens all the time. You will change your mind. You will find the right one eventually for cash. Now, please do not smoke in the house.
I don't smoke.
Now, what do you want to know about my aunt? You're wasting time.
I'm looking for some backstory. What was your childhood like? What inspired you to be a creative person, an artist? Kids have dreams of being this or that. What were your childhood fantasies?
Well, I wanted to be everything, everybody. A ballet dancer, a movie star, a famous scientist, a writer, mostly a writer. I wrote all the time. Not just my own experiences, but my dreams, my fabulous future. It was much later as an adult that I turned to painting. I needed the comfort of being creative in some discipline. Was that going to be writing or teaching or art? Well, circumstances, personal situations brought me to art. And ultimately, I found comfort in that. And I became rather good at it, yes? But people do not really understand it, the art. And sometimes I do not. But it is there in all its garish color, bold, indistinguishable imagery, mystifying messaging, as you will find if we ever get to the point of discussing my art, which is not only covering every possible space in this small room, but is the entire reason for your being here in the first place. Or am I wrong?
I have a confession to make, Ms. Hoover.
No. You may call me Corinne. At this point, we are practically dating.
I really don't know anything about art. I know what I like, but what I mean is I don't know what's from this school or that school, or what's abstract or what's impressionistic, or what's postmodern or modern, or good or bad.
Yes, but what I can tell you is that there is nothing bad in this room. And we all have our tastes, what we like and do not like. But we do not have to understand what we are looking at. We just need to feel something. Is it pleasing? Does it speak to me? Is it colorful? Am I reminded of something personal in what I am looking at?
I'd like to talk about your art and your paintings, and yes, that's the reason I'm here. However, I'd like to know more about your early years. For instance, knowing more about your early years could shed important light to who you've become as an adult or as an artist, and then how your young years have impacted or influenced who you are today, and all the years between. Does that make sense? When I know more about you, I may be able to better respond to your art. You know, I was just thinking that we might do a whole series in the weekly.
Yes. Of course, what you say makes sense. But I am just not sure I want to go there. I have told you this more than once. I am a very private person. It is just who I am. You can only go so far with me. But, you know, I have never been interviewed before by anyone for any publication. And I am, frankly, surprised that I sit here with you at this moment. Maybe it is age. Maybe I have nothing to lose. But if I take a deep look into my life, I find I may have a great deal to lose. Not just for myself, but for many others who have or may have. No, I will not go there.
But Ms. Hoover, we need to start someplace, somewhere, for a proper perspective of your life. Now, you set the parameters.
And I will. Charlie, look here. Charlie, now what about this picture? That say anything to you?
So, you were born in Amsterdam.
Frankfurt, Germany, 1929. The family moved to Amsterdam when I was an infant. I was schooled there. Bit of a show-off. Too smart for my own good, some would say, and did. My father was a businessman, imports. Mother, at home with her 2 daughters, me and my sister. I was, and I suppose still am, Rebecca Feldstein.
You have a sister. Where is she today?
She is not living. She died too young. I miss her. I miss many things while growing up. I will tell you what I miss. Friendships that were made instantly and then ended one after the other in weeks rather than months.
Yes, the camps.
You live like that, if you live. You live like that and you protect yourself. You become insular out of the fear of loss. One friend, then another and another gone. Well, I have been alone or felt alone all of my adult life. I do not know if I prefer it that way. It is not a natural state, but there it is. And one learns to first accept it. And after that, well, after that, it is the only way one knows how to live.
How long did you stay in the resettlement camps? I suppose you went through the processing, the documentation, and I've read there are endless lists, even today.
Yes, I know of the lists, sir. Millions of us have spent hours searching. And to some, it has become an avocation. But I do not go there. I have no need to.
Yes, I understand. So, let's see, you came to this country with your Hoover family. Now, where did you settle with Mr. Stern, your Hoover family?
The Bronx. First with Sam, and then with the Hoovers after Sam. Oh, Charlie, I have been all over this country. Virginia, Iowa, Texas, California. Mostly in small towns nobody ever heard of. And now you know where I am, yes? The metropolis of Deerfield, Oregon. Charlie, you are exhausting me. Surely you have enough material on a so-so eccentric, reclusive artist no one is really interested in. You are writing a book?
No, just a small profile piece, perhaps more for a small local weekly, Miss Hoover. Now, just a few more questions and we'll put a clothespin on it. Let's see, we'll have another interview next week.
On one condition, You bring me a bag of sour lemon drops. I love them. Now they have got to be sour, Charlie, as in very sour.
I'll tell you what, I'll bring you the sour lemon drops. Very sour.
Well, I am tired. Give me a vacation. Give me 2 weeks. 2 weeks. Wednesday, okay. 11.
Roger. 2 weeks. Let's see, that is the 8th. Wednesday, 11, lemon drops, sour.
Sour, Charlie. As in the painting lady you are interviewing.
There's something. Well, I don't know how to describe it. First of all, I like Miss Hoover, I do. Let's face it, she's a mystery. Up front, she seems a regular person, eccentric. Yes, a strong woman with definite ideas. Not much of a smiler, very private, not very forthcoming, but reluctant to, I don't know, to tell it all, to tell the truth. I'm not sure I believe what she says. I find the fact that she's willing to be interviewed for this pokey little news sheet, well, it's curious. It's more than curious. Here she is, a loner, a private person by design, ever eager to sit with a newsman for cards and wanted to sell her pictures. Well, that makes sense. But in this little town, I mean, who buys original art? Abstract art. Well, off-the-wall art. Forgive the pun. Any art that we don't know what the hell it is or what it means. And so I've done a little homework. Some background checking on her stories. Where to start? Now, I've decided to accept much of her stories so far. She was born in 1929. She's 90 now. In pretty good shape for 90. Born Rebecca Feldstein, Frankfurt, Germany. Family moved to Amsterdam. She's an infant. The Nazis moved into Holland in 1940 and began to round up the Jews, put them in boxcars, and send them to the camps. Now, there are Holocaust databanks, many of them. So for beginners, I do some research, probing sources with endless survivor lists. Remember now, I'm looking for those who survived, not the millions who were murdered. I have her name, Feldstein Rebecca. Turns out, on the list that I used, I found over 400 Feldsteins. Surprisingly, only 12 survivors living as Rebecca Feldstein, and all but 3 of those living in England or Israel, 2 in Brazil, 1 in Australia. Corinne tells me she worked for the UNRRA and the U.S. occupation forces in Germany as a translator after 1945. More research. There is no record of a Rebecca Feldstein serving in that or any capacity for the U.S. forces from 1945 through 1955 when the offices were disbanded. Am I onto something or does it matter? Many of us keep secrets, make up stories, fabricate biographies, for whatever reasons. But in this case, I want to know more. Who is Miss Corinne Hoover, really? I have a feeling. It's vague, out of focus, fleeting. A feeling that as bizarre and as improbable as it seems, there may be one hell of a story here. Wednesday, 11 o'clock. Pull yourself together, Charles Q. Simpson. You're either onto something important or a candidate for the loony bin or worse, early forced retirement.
Well, there are many years between 1945 and the present, and I am not sure of what you want to know, or even why you want to know it. Are we not meaning to talk about what I do? I mean, I thought you were interviewing me as a local painter, an artist. And from what I recall, you have barely touched on the subject. And then only because I initiated it, the subject.
You're right, of course, but as I've mentioned, I'm looking for background. You've lived so many places, have had so many experiences that most of us native-born citizens have not. For instance, your transition from Europe to this country. You married, you divorced, you worked, at what? As I understand, your interest in art and painting came much later.
Oh my God, Charlie, all these questions. Oh, I have led an uninspired life. Why would you be interested in what I sincerely consider a life of banality? Look. I did many things to pay my way after mostly disastrous marriages. I have been a bookkeeper, a hotel receptionist, a kind of magazine editor for a cheap pulp rag. And oh, I am political for certain. I would vote for anyone, but that is anyone left of Emma Goldman. So, besides the art, there it seems we will never go, what else could you possibly want to ask me? Careful.
Germany. Your time in the camps and your liberation.
Liberation? Is that what you call it? Well, I cannot go there. My God, Charlie, you have heard all the stories. There must be 150 books published every year about the Holocaust.
I did some research last week, knowing that we'd be meeting today.
Research?
Yes. I started with Google, like we all do. Hell, what was life like before Google?
Google.
Your name was or is Rebecca Feldstein. I clicked onto a database for survivors of the Holocaust. Now, that's who you are or were?
You've been a busy man, Charlie.
While there are many Feldsteins in the database, there's no record of a Rebecca Feldstein, your age, your country of origin, who emigrated to the United States after the war, 1945 and 1947.
I was Stern. Feldstein was my birth name. I was married when I came to this country. Careful of your facts, Charlie.
Feldstein was your name at liberation. But please, there's another point. There is no record of your name as having worked as a translator for the U.S. occupying forces in 1945 and 1947. No.
Where are you going with this?
Ms. Hoover, I came here to write a fast bio of a local lady who paints pictures that most of us middle-browed folks can't make head nor tail of. Figured I could knock out the piece in 45 minutes, move on to the Friday night football game. By the way, we beat Hadley by a field goal in the last 2 minutes. Move on, as I said, to meet a couple of buddies at the local watering hole, the Deerville Hotel.
I never had any intention of telling you the whole story, Mr. Simpson. Now, that was our arrangement at our very first meeting.
I wonder, did you not want to tell? How about the true story? For starters, I'm not sure that Rebecca Feldstein Corinne Hoover is your real name.
I have had many names. We have been through that. What more?
I hope you'll level with me. I think you have an intriguing story to tell, and you're not telling it. Now, this isn't curiosity, and I'm not a dummy, well, except when it comes to women. And I think you're terrified to open up. And let me say this, I don't blame you for being anxious. Listen, I'm a person you can trust. Have you heard that before? Listen again, at this point in our relationship, our exchange, I may be the only person you can trust.
Go away.
I will if you'll invite me back. Yeah, it's me, Gloria. No, I don't want to talk to Stan. Don't connect me, doll. Just listen to me, Gloria. All right? I want you to give Stan this message. A message, Gloria, so write it down. Okay, well, take the call. I'll wait. Now don't lose me. Okay, good. Now, sweetheart, this is important. Understand? Tell Stan that Charlie called. He needs a day off, a little R&R, not answering his phone, maybe out of town. His desk is clear, there's no pending copy, nothing to worry about, and I'll be back Thursday. Yes. I know he'll be pissed and he'll blame you, but I'll make it up to you, baby. Now, so you got it, the message. Good. Now read it back. Good, good. I'll see you Thursday. Love you, Glow. Bye. No, the lady has not called me back. I've called several times, even sent a letter of apology. But I don't know why I'm apologizing, but my guess is she's upset with my meddling. And let's face it, I am meddling. Look, there's something more than just curiosity here. Who really is this 90-year-old woman who calls herself Corinne Hoover? I'm convinced she's not who she says she is. And why am I pursuing this? Because I think she's someone else, and that someone else could be the scoop of a lifetime. Just saying. In the last week, I've spent hours at my laptop. I've gone everywhere Google and every search engine can take me. I've been in the library till they turn the lights out on me. And I got to tell you, I have come up with a biography which is historical and unbelievable. But maybe, just maybe, it could be believable. I'm on brain speed. I can't write. I can't sleep. And I can't eat anything that doesn't have a pound of sugar in it. I haven't had a drink in a week. Well, that's not true. Never mind. I may be onto one hell of a story. And now, this is just a thought. An unwelcome possibility. Shit. I may be being led. Is she gaming me? Am I mad? Somehow, I've got to see her, confront her. I don't know. This ain't gonna be easy.
The only reason I have agreed to this last meeting is to finally talk about what we were to have talked about a month ago. You may not be, but there are people in town who find my eclectic art appealing. I could use a sale now and then, and some publicity would be welcome. Now this is your chair. And there is no smoking, as I may have mentioned before.
I don't smoke.
Now, Charlie, turn around. Now, look over my pictures. Now, which one would you choose if you were to choose, which I hope you will? There was a self-portrait from several years ago. Well, many years ago. But anyway, tastes change. Anyway, I was never a beauty. You want something? Coffee? Tea?
No, I'm fine.
Just as well. I do not drink coffee. And I am out of tea bags. Imagine, tea in a bag, water in a bottle. We have been around too long, Charles. Well, I have. So what do you think of that covered up painting? Does it look anything like me? Maybe yes?
Yeah, no.
Anyway. There are my sour lemon drops.
And you thought I'd forgotten.
Oh. These are not individually wrapped. No matter. I do prefer the wrapped lemon drops. You see, after a few days or weeks, they begin to stick to each other. All that sugar, and they are hard to pull apart. But these will do. These will have to do. Let us face it, Charlie. You knew I would have to complain about something. Why not sour lemon drops?
Ms. Hoover, you haven't been straight with me since our very first meeting. Is it really art you want to talk about, or is there another reason you called the weekly and introduced yourself to my editor?
No. It was your editor who called me and asked for an interview, a profile for the newspaper.
Not so. How would he have known of your existence? You lead such a solitary, closeted, secretive life with all the blinds closed, and My guess is that you don't know anyone and no one knows you. You called Stan, my editor, on June 19th at 10:30 in the morning. That's how you finesse this whole charade, this interview. You've stage managed this whole play.
And what do you want, Charlie? Why are you here?
I have a few questions. I've been doing some research, actually quite a bit of research. The internet, the libraries here and in Portland. It's amazing what you can find in the library. I'm talking history, not just slick reference on the net. So as I said, I have some questions this morning. I've gathered some information that should be of interest to both of us. My guess is that there is no surprises to you, but to me, astounding is an understatement. Forgive me, this is not an indictment or a cross-examination or an accusation. It is more of a clarification for me.
Clarification.
Of who you are really. Since I believe you are not who you say you are not Corinne Hoover, you are not Rebecca Feldstein. Could we start there?
Do I have a choice?
Absolutely.
I could ask you to leave.
You could, and I would, but I don't think you want me to leave.
And why is that?
Because I think you're ready to release a burden you've been carrying all these years, and now I honestly believe that you want to talk about it. I have some notes I've made based on historical records, many of them well known all over the world. Unless there is new focus or revelations, these records stand. New information may come forward we can't know. So based on current history, I have some questions for you. Let me say I may be completely wrong in this exercise. Is it my fantasy? Am I crazy? Am I doing you a grave injustice? Please believe me, I'm not here to insult you or to do you harm. I've made a list of what I believe are significant names, places, dates that I found relating to an historical person. Since our first meeting, I've wondered if these discoveries have relevance to you. Ms. Hoover, again, a name I believe is not yours. We know there is no record of the Occupation Forces archive that a Miss Rebecca Feldstein was ever employed as a translator for the denazification program at the end of the war in 1945-1947. There never was a Lieutenant Samuel Stern with the U.S. Army at the time working in the same capacity. A man you say you married while working in the same armed forces office. I can find no immigration documentation in New York arrival in 1947 of a Feldstein or Stern.
You have been a busy person, Charles. But I like Portland. There is a restaurant there I especially like, French. So few truly French restaurants today. Fast food. Cooking should not be fast. Nor should eating. Do you cook, Charlie? I used to, but not anymore. You know, I wish I had a pillow for my chair.
So now we come to what I've been investigating for the past weeks. The term intriguing doesn't even come close to what I may have discovered. I say may because I don't know. And what if I'm wrong? Okay. Here's a possible biography for your consideration. For instance, this woman was born in 1929, which would make her 90 today. From 1942 to 1944, this person lived with her family in Amsterdam at 263 Prinsengracht, which has been called an acte huis or secret annex. Her father's name was Otto. He was an importer of herbs and spices, and his office, showroom, was on the ground street level of that same building. And so it seems, this woman, then a young girl, was quite a good writer, sensitive, even poetic. 8 people lived in the secret annex, the attic on the top floor of the commercial building. There was a young man who lived with his parents in the attic. His name was Peter van Pels, about the same age as the young girl. They were fond of each other. In 1944, the group of 8 was betrayed to the Germans. They were Jews in hiding. They were transported along with thousands of others of the Jews to a concentration camp called Bergen-Belsen in North Germany, where in 1945 this young girl died of typhus in Stalag 11C. Or perhaps she didn't die. These are the basic facts from my research. The question I've asked myself shortly after meeting you is why? Who are you? Only you know the answer. So now that you know what I've discovered about this young girl, here's the most important question. Just one. Did you ever write a diary?
No! No! It is a curse I have carried with me for most of my life. I knew no one would understand, and in many ways I myself have never really understood what has haunted me all these years.
But who are you? Now you can trust me. I'm a good listener. I could stay or I could leave, but something tells me you'd like to rid yourself of this burden. Your call. Shall I call you Corinne?
Just when you have asked permission to call me by my given name, it no longer matters. And it is not my name.
I was aware of that after our first meeting.
My name is Susan Pemberton, born 1929, Akron, Ohio, the same year as an only child of a school teacher and a salesman. Good people, and I was a good student. I loved the arts and writing, and a voracious reader ever since I could read. But I was never close to people. I kept to myself, even as a child. And I've been alone all my life, which, as you know, is 90 years.
So, your story is all a charade. If I were mean-spirited, I'd call it a scam, a setup, including the accent. And why? And for what?
It happened when I was about 16 in high school. And I've never recovered from the experience.
Experience?
I read the diary.
Yes. And?
Do you have any idea how impressionable a 16-year-old girl could be? Really? I mean, the book, the diary. It was assigned in an English class, along with some Dickens, Wordsworth, Byron, Shelley, you know, the standard stuff in those days. But it was the diary that I read with wide eyes, an awful sinking feeling in my chest, and these crazy emotions I had never experienced. Oh God, I must have read it 4 or 5 times. And then, oh God, and then I read what happened to that young girl. Oh, Charlie, my God, no, no, no.
I understand.
Yeah, but do you? I ignored the rest of my class assignments, cut classes. School was a miasma, bad to failing grades. I could think of nothing or no one else except that young girl. But somehow, I finished school. And teaching was the only option I thought I had. Well, the easiest solution at the time. But the obsession never left me, has never left me. I mean, she's there, she's here, and there all the time.
You've been a school teacher for many years?
30. For some reason, I was quite successful. I was offered tenure many times, but never accepted and just exited to the next job, the next town. Well, starting in Ohio, I constantly moved west. And I taught every subject in the curriculum on every grade level. Moving on, moving west. Illinois, Iowa, Nebraska, Wyoming, Montana, west. And alone.
Never married?
Never.
Men?
Very few. Men seem to think that a woman has to have a man in her life. I've never understood that. But then I'm not a man.
So where did the names Feldstein, Stern, Hoover, God knows there may have been many more. Now, where did they come from?
Invention. I had to have some names to cover for my obsession. Yes, that's what it was and is. I've always known it was obsession. And I knew that with you, I was suspect. And I knew, too, that you would do your research and that you wouldn't find Feldstein or the work for the U.S. translators or a marriage to a non-existent Samuel Stern, nor the emigration in 47 to the U.S. And so, you began to fall in line, as others had done. Why, this woman isn't who she claims to be. Could she possibly be? What a find. What a story. What a lie. A lie. God, I swear, Charlie, I swear. For years, I believed I was that young girl. And as I've grown older, so has she.
Do I believe this?
Listen, as soon as I discovered her, I began to look into the history of the Holocaust. Oh, I spent hours in libraries, bought countless books on the war years, the transports, the camps, the murders, and most especially, the Amsterdam Diary. That girl was never off my mind. And then, it happened. I began to write about her, nonfiction, in the first person. You see, Charlie, if you read the diary carefully, you discover who the young girl really was and whom she would become. She was bright, ambitious, courageous, and even as a young person, plotting her creative future. Would she have succeeded? No doubt. Would men enter her life? Of course. Would she have ultimately led the life she wanted? Oh, yes. In my opinion, yes. She has convinced me. You see, Charlie, I was subsumed. I was she and she was I. Can you understand? I was that girl. And I lived through her in a fantasy life. I was a ballet dancer, a movie star, a best-selling author, an artist hanging at the Whitney. Oh my God, Charlie, listen, I saved her life. I gave her a life to live out. I became her to save her. And there are times, Charlie, oh, there are times, please believe me, when I am not Susan Pemberton, but the girl in the diary.
You know, of course, that it was her father, Otto, who discovered the diary after the war. You care so little for him, the man who introduced the diary to the world.
I know, of course I know. Oh, but it was those crumpled, stained pages scattered on the floor of the annex that mattered. Nothing else. See, Charlie, I was there, a tourist, but many, many, many times. And I have to tell you, I could barely walk up those steep stairs to the annex. Oh, my heart was just pounding and pounding. And I have to tell you, I knew every single corner of that space, as though I had lived there, because I believed I had lived there. And I stood at the window where the girl stood, praying in her own way to fly out of that window into a free world and to begin a life of adventure.
The name Corinne, where did that come from?
Well, reading through the many accounts of her last days in the camp, I came across the name of a girl who was a friend and who survived, to tell how so many inmates, young and old, died of typhus just before the liberation. Her name was Corinne, and it made me feel closer to the girl in the diary. And somehow that name authenticated my obsession.
But why the compulsion to reveal this in this town, to this newspaper, to this journalist?
I don't know. I honestly don't know. Somehow, I needed her to speak. Did I know I'd be found out? I did. And so I played the lie and revealed the lie at the same time. Oh, Charlie, maybe I've carried this fantasy too long. I mean, not only did I want to reveal her, but at the same time, reveal myself.
Susan, I believe what you're telling me, but what I have a hard time understanding is why, at 75, you would live a fantasy that dominates your life at 90, to the point of shedding your own identity to live as another person, a dead person. What about Susan Pemberton? Is she dead too? Why the obsession with this little girl?
Why? 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 Because she should have lived. Because there was a world waiting for her. And because she was creative and warm and caring and giving. And because she found humor in tragedy. And because of the diary. The diary.
I've been a journalist for 40 years. I had the story of a lifetime. I thought I had the story of a lifetime. I didn't have the story of a lifetime. I never saw Susan Pemberton again. I never wrote up the interview of the eccentric artist of Deerville. Lately, I've been covering the Republican Women's Auxiliary, the football season, and the major rainfall that knocked out a bridge on Canal Street. The other day, I drove by her house. Blinds were usually closed, but today the blinds were up, and there was a for rent sign on the front lawn. There you have it. Well, I won't let you go before putting a button on the story. I was sitting at my desk on a slow news day. It was Thursday. Gloria handed me an envelope. My name, handwritten, no return. I have it here.
Charlie, I could not leave town without thanking you for your courtesy and understanding. It seems I have gone as far west as I can. The last time I checked, Oregon is on the Pacific. Better head east. Charlie, you have been in my thoughts. I realize I owe you an apology, and I will tell you why. My name is not Susan Pemberton. I was not born in Akron, Ohio. I never taught in any classroom. I have been married only once and for a very short period. I live comfortably on my savings. I move house often and I am free. I do not often tell the truth, not out of malice, but of necessity. I believe I owe you this. I am the Amsterdam girl who wrote the diary. My name is Anne.
That's the story. No story for me still. Oh, hell, I don't know. Can't say I wasn't hoodwinked. Probably used. Was I? There's humor in everything if you look for it. I went into it with my eyes wide closed. Kind of liked her, I did. But then, who is she? Who was she? I don't know. You don't know. And as my old man used to say, she don't know. Well, what you might want to know is that Gloria and I had our first date the other night. She warned me the evening was for dinner only, no fooling around. Not that I know what fooling around means anymore. She's a cutie, divorced, couple of kids. Listen, that's not for me. I got a nice place. I got a microwave oven. I got a 40-inch screen. I got 250 channels. I got it made. I guess. Well, there you have it. Getting back to those of you who were thinking about our town, let me just leave you with the old stage manager's speech at the end of the play. We all know that something's eternal, and it ain't houses, and it ain't names, and it ain't earth, and it ain't even the stars. Everybody knows in their bones that something is eternal, and that something is human beings. Lights are out in Deerville. Most everybody's asleep in Deerville. It's 10 o'clock. Hey, you get a good rest too. Good night.